got a president of the United States he thinks that climate change is a hoax.
Well, you can't make this stuff up. Bernie Sanders and AOC, they are fighting oligarchies on the Fight Oligarchy tour. However, they have just been busted using a private jet. A very expensive private jet. Now, here is the video that's surfacing of AOC and Bernie Sanders exiting the private jet. Now, if you needed more information, because nobody's talking about this, especially on the mainstream media, the internet was actually able to cross-reference the particular private jet NX04XT flight information, cross-reference exactly where AOC and Bernie Sanders were expected to be on the Fight Oligarchy tour.
The fossil fuel industry and tell them to stop destroying this planet.
Now, what makes this even more funny, that speech Bernie Sanders is making about saving the planet, he's doing that at something called Coachella, a music festival. But the funny part about Coachella this particular season, an estimated 60% of Coachella's 2025 attendees funded their tickets through payment plans. So here you got Bernie Sanders talking about saving the planet to a majority of the audience who can't even afford their ticket, yet Bernie Sanders is flying around in a private jet. However, AOC has already been busted for flying first class during this tour, but not on a private jet.
Conservatives are laying into progressive Congresswoman from New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The question here, is it fair that they're going after her over this? Take a look. She was caught on camera traveling first class on a JetBlue flight last month. She was on her way to Las Vegas to speak at a Fight Oligarchy event with Senator Bernie Sanders, events in which she has been railing against the wealthy elite.
We are witnessing an oligarchy in America. When those with the most economic, political, and technological power destroy the public good to enrich themselves, a certain ugly kind of politics that at its core is about lying to and screwing over working and middle-class Americans.
Other passengers told the New York Post this: nothing says power to the people like ignoring voters looking to say hello and reclining in first class while tweeting about income inequality. And AOC is fighting the system one first class mimosa at a time. What's your reaction? Is this fair ground?
I think it's absolutely hilarious. Look, basically, good for anyone who wants to make it in America. That's the American dream. Everyone should have the opportunity to climb the ladder of opportunity and enjoy first class. But there's a big difference. You work for it and you earn it. She's paid by the taxpayer. She's not earning it in the way that the American dream is all about. And by the way, let's look at how Democrats are turning this into legislation. Right here in California, unbelievably, there's a bill to remove that Clear channel from airport security, where you can pay to join Clear and skip the line, as it were. They don't like that because it's unfair. So they're trying to take that away. Meanwhile, the champion of the left is enjoying these perks at the taxpayer's expense. It is absolutely unbelievable.
All right, now thanks to you guys, we have a sponsor, 1775 Coffee Company. Have you ever drank a cup of coffee that makes you feel younger? 1775's Rejuvenate Coffee is a bold, dark roast infused with CAG, the same compound studied to reverse biological age by up to 8 years. That's right, 8 years. It fuels your cells, sharpens your mind, and supports long-term strength, all without popping a cabinet full of supplements or drinking swamp water in a bottle. This isn't lab junk, no mystery blends, just real, single-origin, small-batch coffee roasted weekly with one powerful proven ingredient. And here's the best part. When you buy from 1775 Coffee, you're backing free speech, freedom of choice, and a company that backs the same creators and values you do. No corporate overlords, just great products made for people who still believe in something real. So go to 1775coffee.com, grab their anti-aging longevity roast, and use code T-SPLY, capital T-SPLY, like you see on the screen, for 15% off. Feel sharper, stronger, younger, and know you're fueling the companies that actually give a damn about your health and freedom.
It is not a coincidence that these disasters get relatively little media coverage, and that even less of the coverage dares to mention climate change. It is not a coincidence that the truth is controversial. None of this is a coincidence, because climate change is not a coincidence or a scientific anomaly. Climate change is a consequence. It is a consequence of our unsustainable way of life, because it is unsustainable to organize our society as we have, centered on prioritizing personal gain and profit over any and all human or planetary considerations.
Now we are about to take this to an all new level, because to give you some context, this is all coming out on Earth Day. As I make this video, it's the day after Earth Day, but the speech you are about to watch is former Vice President Al Gore talk about climate change and somehow connect that to Donald Trump, or comparing Donald Trump to the World War II leadership of Germany. This is insanity.
I want to note that before I use what is not a precedent, I understand very well why it is wrong to compare Adolf Hitler's Third Reich to any other movement. It was uniquely evil, full stop. I get it. But there are important lessons from the history of that emergent evil, and here is one that I regard as essential. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, a small group of philosophers who had escaped Hitler's murderous regime returned to Germany and performed a kind of moral autopsy on the Third Reich. The most famous of the so-called Frankfurt School of philosophers was a man named Jürgen Habermas, best known, I would say, but it was Habermas's mentor, Theodor Adorno, who wrote that the first step in that nation's descent into hell was, and I quote, the conversion of all questions of truth into questions of power. He described how the Nazis, and I quote again, attacked the very heart of the distinction between true and false, end quote. The Trump administration is insisting on trying to create their own preferred version of reality. They say Ukraine attacked Russia instead of the other way around, and expect us to believe it. At home, they attack heroes who have defended our nation in war and against cyber attacks as traitors. They say the climate crisis is a hoax invented by the Chinese to destroy American manufacturing. They say coal is clean. They say wind turbines cause cancer. They say sea level rise just creates more beachfront property. Their allies in the oligarchic backlash to climate action argue that those who want to stop using the sky as an open sewer, for God's sake, need to be more realistic and acquiesce to the huge increases in the burning of more and more fossil fuels, which is what they're pushing, even though that is the principal cause of the climate crisis.
Alright, first things first, if anyone is still watching this video, I really do appreciate it. I don't even know how to explain or how to break down what we just watched. I would assume the majority of you have a high enough level IQ to understand that was insane, and we'll leave it at that. Let us continue.
The problem is that the right wing, hello Scott, has taken advantage of this situation, I think, quite cleverly, quite wisely. They've played into a weakness.
What situation?
The situation of media being under attack. And so they've created a situation where...
You've almost got it. Keep going.
What
the right wing is taking advantage of is finally the American people saying enough is enough. They're tired of feeling like the mass media screens out one viewpoint versus another in political coverage. They're tired of media institutions favoring one party over another. They're tired of narratives over factual stories. If I had any advice for 60 Minutes or anybody else, it would be just cover the news and try to be fair about it and stop putting your finger on the scale, especially during campaigns.
You're talking about the old mass media myth that you could have this thing that was in the middle, the Walter Cronkite saying, that's the way it is, when it wasn't for many Americans the way it was, when people were pissed off.
People back in those days trusted the media, did they not?
No, they just couldn't be heard because there was no two-way. Now we have the internet.
Look at the Gallup polling. It was here, and now it's here. It's fallen off of a cliff.
Yeah, we do have that Gallup polling about trust in media, and now, as in recent years, and let's be honest, Scott, a lot of this is driven by the rhetoric on your side of the aisle. I mean, it's not.
You think it's driven by the rhetoric and not the performance?
Absolutely.
But my point is this: if you're CBS or any other news outlet, the reason that you have lost trust ought to be obvious to you, and the way to fix it also ought to be obvious to you. And it has nothing to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with the product. Just try to make a better product that appeals to more people. And the way you appeal to more people is by not crapping on half or more than half of the country because of their values and political viewpoints.
I think that is
what you'd end up with in that press room then is, and these are my words, the freak show that Trump wants. Trump tries to devalue media. Why should we value his freak show there? Leave it to the freaks.
I think calling them freaks.
I don't think there's any disagreement on that, by the way.
I mean, he called these new media sources the freak show. They're not freaks. They have audiences.
Some of them are.
They have audiences, and there's a reason that they're thriving is because people are starved for information that they think they can trust. They're not freaks. They're filling a need in this country, in my opinion.
All right,
Now look, this is the simple reality of the situation. We would have never heard about this story, let alone from MSNBC or CNN or anybody who's left-leaning, because this doesn't fit the left-leaning media narrative. How destructive and terrible is it when Bernie Sanders and AOC, they are polling very high. They're fighting the oligarchy, yet they are flying in the tool that the oligarchies use in the world, private jets, let alone this specific private jet's actually like really expensive, and operating costs are also expensive. And the question is, who's actually paying for this, by the way? That's maybe for another video for another time. But again, the part that really stinks about our media narratives is that left-leaning media will never ever talk about this, when I'm sure Democrats would actually like to know, why is this happening? How is it happening? And obviously conservatives and Republicans are eating this up right now. But anyway, if you guys are still watching this video, I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for all your support. Go check out our sponsor. Go get some coffee. They are a great sponsor and a great product. Thank you for everything. God bless, and we'll see you all later.